A Lich is a powerful necromancer which has achieved a state of undeath through magical means. A Lich is a powerful necromancer who use their powers to become immortal. They are classified as creatures of the night. Unlike most of the undead, which are often depicted as mindless, a Lich is sapient, retaining their previous intelligence and magical abilities. Liches often hold power over armies of lesser undead soldiers and servants. Liches are feared by mortal beings for their malign magic, their intelligence, and their willingness to embrace death for immortality. When some necromancers advance to a greater state of being through their magical prowess, they gain a quasi-godhood known as lichdom. True leeches, similar to natural-born necromancers, are extremely rare, as they are only be born through the union between a magical mortal, often a witch, with a death-related entity, often either a reaper or a chthonic deity. Liches are the remains of great sorcerers who embrace death as a means of preserving themselves. They further their own power at any cost, having no interest in the affairs of the living except where those affairs interfere with their own. Scheming and insane, they hunger for long-forgotten knowledge and the most terrible secrets. Because the shadow of death doesn't hang over them, they can conceive plans that take years, decades, or centuries to come to fruition. While they usually come in a variety of appearances, a Lich is usually depicted as a gaunt and skeletal humanoid with withered flesh stretched tight across its bones. Its eyes succumbed to decay long ago, but points of light burn in its empty sockets. It is often garbed in the moldering remains of fine clothing and jewelry worn and dulled by the passage of time. In the case of the Lich that faced off against Sparta, Trevor Belmont, and Saifa Belnades, it appeared to be wearing regal yellow robes, has withered rotted skin, and a skull engulfed in necroplasmic energy within a cage-shaped crown. Process of creation. Phylactery. A Lich is created by an arcane ritual that traps the wizard's soul within a phylactery. Doing so binds the soul to the mortal world, preventing it from traveling to the afterlife after death. A phylactery is traditionally an amulet in the shape of a small box, but it can take the form of any item possessing an interior space into which arcane sigils of naming, binding, immortality, and dark magic are scribed in silver. With its phylactery prepared, the necromancer will transfer some of their own life force onto the object. This process is physically taxing upon the caster, and not all who attempt this ritual survive the ordeal. If so, the future Lich drinks a potion of transformation, a vile concoction of poison mixed with the blood of a sentient creature whose soul is sacrificed to the phylactery. The sorcerer falls dead, then rises as a Lich as its soul is drawn into the phylactery, where it forever remains. Upon completion, the Lich no longer needs to fear death, for as long as this phylactery remains unharmed, the Lich will remain immortal. Life force absorption. Another process of becoming a Lich involves draining the life force of someone and transferring it back to the Lich's body. One says that to become a Lich, one must force their body into death and beyond. The next part of becoming a Lich is having great necromantic knowledge in the dark arts. Afterwards, the soon-to-be Lich must steal souls from their vessels as painfully as possible, as the higher measure of pain and torment from the sacrifices the purer the ascent to lichdom. Lastly, a powerful relic, either malevolent or good that can be perverted, has to be used as a focus point for casting the spell used to take souls from their owners. The more powerful the relic, the more powerful the soul rending. Horcrux. Artificial Lich are born through using Horcruxes, which are created through a long and complicated process that includes tearing one's soul apart using the death of an innocent. This directly violated one of the necromantic law's greatest rule: never interfere with the inner workings of one's soul, which would inevitably lead to a punishment from a chthonic god. However, unlike what popular media believes, the creation of a lich is something extremely dark and difficult, considered to be the greatest of all the necromantic taboos, and thus all leeches are considered by their former community as a stain within their history. This is mainly because those artificial leeches are born through using horcruxes, which are created through a long and complicated process that includes tearing one's soul apart using the death of an innocent. This directly violated one of the necromantic law's greatest rule: never interfere with the inner workings of one's soul, which would inevitably lead to a punishment from a chthonic god. History. The Lich Gate. During the Middle Ages, when the number of leeches are staggering high and necromancy started to be associated with evil and destruction as a result, a group of 3 unnamed witch sisters, through a series of complicated and unknown rituals, managed to create a pocket dimension to be the eternal prison for the immortalized leeches known as the Lich Gate. The prison, which could only be entered through the Lich Gates located at churchyards, representing the gates between the world of the living and the dead, would create tendrils of dark magic to seek out and capture leeches, before dragging them into the world behind the Lich Gates. In here, the leech's magic will slowly be drained away until they are nothing more than magicless piles of rotten flesh and bones.